Hello, encouragers. I'm Rebecca Scott, wife, mother of 4, author, and owner and designer of Rebecca Scott Designs. I'm here to encourage you, to make you feel the I can do this spirit each and every day of our awesome journeys to fulfill those many important roles. I believe we are fully equipped to execute, and I will provide you with as much knowledge and practices and systems as I can to help you understand just what I know you can do. Execute. We got this.
Encouragers, this is part 2 of our awesome 7 reports you must know. Especially after we've went through a year like 2020, we need to know these reports. But even outside of that year, these are just so important to know to be able to grow your business, or even if you're not interested in growing your business, just to sustain your business. And so Clint Brown is going to be our guest again, and we're going to talk over the inventory forecast and COGS. And believe me, this sentence will make Clint fall off of his chair right now if he hears me say this. But I actually love COGS, but I didn't used to. So we'll talk about that a little bit and how much better I am about them now than when I first, even knew about them and got to start working with Clint and Lauren. So, encouragers, the first one we're going to talk about is inventory forecast. Clint, tell us a little bit about that report that we need to run in our business.
Well, let's just start off by saying, congratulations for listening to this and wanting to improve your business by understanding what these reports are, because it's going to put you in charge of running your business instead of your business running you. And so good job on getting this far.
100%, yeah.
Your inventory forecast is basically a set of different ways of thinking or a set of different formulas on how to know if you have enough inventory and the right inventory and how fast it should move. Now, I will say, for those of you who are inventory nerds and you could run circles around us, we will not be comprehensive in inventory forecast because everybody has different types of inventory. If you inventory food in a refrigerator or a restaurant, that is a very different thing than if you sell bags like Becca does versus if you sell trailers for horses. They're totally different worlds. Mm-hmm. But there are some similar ways and some similar concerns that people have with their inventory, and we'll talk about a few of those. Okay. One of the first one might be like, how do you know if you're going to run out of inventory before you need to reorder? Mm-hmm. That's something I would want a formula for and have a sense of when to reorder. Becca, how do you think about reordering? How do you have a sense? I'm going to put you on the spot here. How do you know when it's time to reorder zippers, for instance? Because I know you do it. I was at your house when zippers showed up.
I freak out.
Zippers?
My favorite thing that comes.
Becca gets very excited about zippers. Zippers, by the way, very excited.
Oh my gosh. How do I know? Well, so I have them organized by color in baskets, and so I just instinctively know, like, ooh, that looks like less than 100. We've grouped them in groups of 25. So if I have only 25 aqua zippers left, I'm like, ooh, we got to order aqua again because I know it's a popular print with some of the outside fabrics that I've picked. If it's only 25 left of red, that is more of a seasonal color for whatever reason. So I just know that because I probably know way too much about my product. Not way too much, but I just can make educated guesses. So then I can buy some time and not order the red zippers until I have a little bit better cash flow during the fourth quarter. Does that answer?
Yeah, so that's perfect. So, and most small businesses are surprisingly pretty good at this one, unless the product's just going too fast. Now, in the 2020 world of sales, it could have been really unpredictable. I have a friend who runs a bicycle store, and on one Saturday, he sold every piece of inventory he had in the whole store.
Wow.
Well, there's no way to run a report for selling everything you've owned ever, like everything in the store. He was empty. He had to close the store for a few days and wait for a truck. That's unusual. Most of the time, you do have a sense. You will do sort of the Becca method of looking over at the bin and going, that's running a little low, and we sell those pretty quickly. Let's reorder.
Okay.
A little more sophisticated might be, and Becca mentioned this, is like, that there's a number you don't want to get below, right? Mm-hmm. So you say anytime we get to 25 zippers, we reorder. Anytime we get to 100 zippers, we reorder. And this is probably the most common and best method for small businesses to do, is know when you hit that bottom number, what's the reorder number? And which means that every once in a while you're going to have to be counting your product or have some sort of simple visual method to look at it, like Becca has hers in bags and trays. Mm-hmm. but have it so that you don't go over to the bin to pick up your zippers and there's none, and you go, oh my gosh, it takes 3 weeks to get zippers and we have 0. We got a problem.
Yeah. And I should say this as a background, too. We actually have to, we didn't used to. It used to be the basket method that we just talked about, but now I have to do inventory every month. I'm literally counting buckles, which is going to change with our new website. But, yeah, I'm out there counting and then enter it into a spreadsheet. And this is the fancy part. It turns red, meaning reorder. It's so nice because then it's not all just in my head.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, for another customer of mine who had a little more product moving around than Becca, his inventory software would just reorder it when it got below a number without even talking to him, which was even fancy.
No.
So it would just contact his distributor. When he got the 25 zippers, it would just do another order of 100. So you can even get that fancy. Yeah.
Someday.
So the inventory, one of your inventory forecasting is like, when are you going to run out of inventory? That seems like a forecast thing, and that's part of inventory forecast.
Okay.
Another part of inventory forecast is to make sure you're not hanging on to too much inventory.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, have I seen this.
Oh.
I go to someone's place and I go, what in the world are you doing with 4,000 of these things? Or how long have these been sitting there, right? Because that's money. Your money's tied up in that inventory.
Yep, 100%.
And so I had a customer that had a lot of clothing. And some of the clothing was moving really fast and some was moving slow. And she had a lot of this one product line that just wasn't moving well, and her money was tied up in this inventory, and it was taking up space for better product. So we had to make a decision. Do we donate this? Do we reduce the price? What do we do? We ended up donating all of it to a charity to just get the warehouse space. Becca, you have a beautiful, beautiful studio, but it does have limited space.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to be wise about where things go. You don't just have a huge warehouse somewhere you can stick everything. And so if stuff wasn't moving or it was taking up too much shelf space, you would feel it.
Yeah.
And so,
well, it's interesting, too, because this report could be a very strategic spreadsheet or report that you run, but can also be very visual. So for me on Fridays, when I design what I call the stock tab for my business, I take a look at literally what is on the shelf and what is in my tack house where I store the extra purses and go, okay, is my shelf too heavy? And if I'm unsure, I can call Molly, my accountant, and say, where am I sitting at? It seems like I have a lot in February, and I can't put a lot on the shelf in February because things don't move as fast as they will in April. And she'll be able to tell me, and I can visually see now when I'm like, nope, we have 27 errands, and I need to have more like 12. So I think, too, you get a sense for it the more you study probably the actual report. You'll be able to study your actual inventory.
Yeah. I think that the best thing I've ever told small businesses is that they're in the business of selling fruit.
Okay.
And fruit spoils. Fruit goes rotten quickly. If you had a little fruit stand, you wouldn't have time to horse around to keeping your avocados too long because they wouldn't be sellable after a few days.
Sure.
Right? Or your strawberries or bananas or apples. You couldn't hang on to them forever. That when you have a durable good like yours, Becca, yours could sit on the shelf for 10 years and it's not going to go bad, right? I mean, it might be out of style. It might not be what you're doing anymore, but it's still there. Sure. And so, but if you viewed it like fruit and you say, how long am I willing to hang on to this before it has quote unquote expired? That's one of the ways you could think about it in your inventory reports is just like, how long are we willing to hang on to something before we have to, you'll hear businesses say they're liquidating stuff. And to make something liquid, basically all they're saying is they're turning it back into cash. And all they want is the cash back out of it.
Yeah. Because
it's sitting on the shelf is just rotting fruit. And it's worth less and less and less each day that it sits on the shelf. And so I find that this getting a hold of your inventory, which is typically when you're a little bit bigger business, if you're under 100,000 in revenue, you probably can like visually inspect your inventory. When you're from 100,000 to $1 million, it starts to become too messy. There's too many things going on, and you can't remember what you bought when or how long it's been sitting there. Or you do have a sense it's been there a long time, but you don't remember how long. Right? If I find out it's been sitting there 6 months and you thought it was a month, that's just a long time to have your money tied up. Again, that's you financing it. Remember in the last podcast we talked about your accounts receivable is you financing this whole thing of your customers having your product and you not having the money. Well, your warehouse is just like that.
Yep.
They've got that warehouse has your money tied up in product and you don't have the cash back to run your business. You've got to do that well because you could have too much inventory and you would much rather have the cash or better selling products.
Mm-hmm. So good. It helps you, okay, I'm reading the notes here too, Clint, is that it helps you come up with a formula for how to order either in bulk or to delay the order. You know, like I said with the zippers, like, it's not a super popular one. I could probably order it in after I've had my summer show season. I can order that one in November when I have more cash flow. So it allows you to forecast formulas for when you should be ordering your things that you order the most of, correct?
Yeah, it's a set of formulas. It's not just like one number and the number's 3 and you go, whoa, I'm at 3.
Okay.
It's more complicated than that because different SKUs and different components of your business move at different paces, and that's where it gets confusing. Like in your world, you might go through a product faster than others because of a certain style, and or it might take longer to get. And the businesses have a hard time. They do a poor job remembering how long it takes to receive something, or they poorly plan that, right? And in 2020, I mean, we're in 2021 now, but in 2020, there was a lot of logistic issues.
Oh, my God.
And so you might have been used to getting your product in 2 weeks. It took 6 weeks. Well, now that's your problem with your customers, right? And that's something of sort of staying on top of your inventory forecast. And Becca, I sent you a ton of notes of all the different ways to go through this, but basically, what it's measuring is, do I have the right inventory at the right time in the right amounts?
Okay.
And how do I know when to replenish it, or how do I know when to get rid of it? And I think that, for anybody who's listening who has inventory, they should be able to pause this, wander back to their back stock room or to their warehouse or to their office and say,
spare bedroom.
their bedroom, their garage, this is not moving quickly. I need to get rid of this. The question I would ask myself is, would you, at this point, if you have products on the shelf, would you rather have the money to make a better purchase, or are you just going to hang on to this one? And that's a real clear way to go back there and say, okay, at this point, if someone would just walk in and give me $100 and I could get this junk off the shelf, I'd take the $100 and go make a better purchase.
Yeah.
It's probably time to move that inventory versus something you just got in yesterday that you're real excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this one is so powerful, and I tell a lot of the boutique owners that I coach is like, you have to, they have a general idea what their inventory is because they have so many new arrivals and things coming in, but it makes it better for the cash flow when you know your inventory forecast. So like I order the hardware, I went from ordering 4 times a year to ordering twice a year because I could save on the shipping. Even though there was more in it, the company wanted more of my money up front if I could, order in bulk, then they would give me a break. And so that's just knowing, A, knowing my cash flow, and B, knowing my inventory forecast. Like I can make that stretch for 6 months versus trying to buy it every 4 months.
Yeah, and now if you're a retailer, if you have a storefront and customers come in, like Becca's a retailer, but it's all on the website and it's made to order, or mostly made to order that way.
Yes.
If you have a storefront, right, customers park their car and they come in, and brick and mortar,
okay,
you need to know your inventory turn, and if you don't, you need to figure that out like today. Whatever today is, put an X on the calendar and get that figured out, because your money's very, very tied up and dependent upon that product being the right product for the right season. Typically, retail inventory turns 4 times a year. And you can walk into most retailers, the owner, and say, talk to me about your inventory turn. What's your number? And they will say 2.6, 5.7, 4. Or they'll go, huh? It's the that worries me. 4 times a year, meaning you sell that product about every 90 days. If it held a spot on the shelf, then you'll sell that shelf empty and you'll replace that shelf again 4 times during the year. It's an inventory turn of 4 years. Or another way to look at it is your entire inventory is new 4 times during the year. You sell everything 4 times over.
Okay.
You want your inventory to turn. You do not want to hang on to and have a long inventory. If your inventory turn is 1 or less, that means that you're buying products that's taking you over a year to sell. You've either got the wrong product or the wrong price or the wrong market or something. It's too long.
Mm-hmm.
Because you bought something, your money was tied up in something and sat on the shelf for a year before you could get the money back. That doesn't seem right. Most business owners want to make a purchase and turn around and sell it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
In your world, Becca, you might buy fabric that you have not yet sold on bag. How long would you say, if you just off the top of your head, would you say, like, if you bought some fabric and I just went and grabbed a piece of fabric off the shelf, how long has that fabric been sitting there before it starts getting cut and used?
Oh,
Would you know?
Yeah, about 6 weeks when I planned out when we'll debut and stuff.
Yeah, so that would be a sense of inventory turn, right? Becca's going to put it into production pretty quick.
Yep.
She doesn't really want it to hang out. Now, because Becca dances between the fashion world and just the function world, she has a little more flexibility. It does matter, sort of the aesthetics of it matter. So it needs to turn pretty quickly because the world of fashion and seasonability matters.
Yes.
Versus wrenches, right? A wrench is a wrench in the winter. It's a wrench next year. It's a wrench in the summer. It's a little more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
But your inventory turn matters. A really simple system, and I've done this quite successfully with several small businesses, is you make a best guess. You say, we want our inventory, we want to get rid of, if we buy any product, we want it gone in 90 days. Perfect. When I worked at Best Buy, that was the first place I ever worked, and I worked in the inventory and merchandise department. And they had basically a 60-day or 90-day inventory turn thing. And basically what they would do is they would say, the product goes on the floor at full price for 30 days, and then it gets marked down. They're hoping to sell all of them in the first 30 days. If they don't, it gets marked down to try and encourage sales. So it gets marked down 10% or 20%. And it goes another 30 days, and then it gets marked down again. When it gets to day 90, they've got to liquidate it. They just had a strict 90-day policy that they would not hang on to inventory after 90 days.
Wow.
Because the chance of selling it after that was like almost zero. Okay. So getting any money out of it was better than getting no money at all, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so you might, one of your listeners might have a similar situation where they say, I have a little boutique and we sell candles. This candle has a life cycle. And in my world, it's going to come in and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to commit to selling it in 90 days. So it's going to be this price for 30, this price for another 30, this price for the last 30. And then when I get to day 90, I don't care what I got. I got to give it away as a Christmas present, sell it for $1, do whatever I can to get that cash back out of it, because otherwise it'll just stay there for the rest of your life.
Right.
That is an inventory management issue that you could have reports for. And you could see why with a retailer. If you've ever seen a retailer walking around with clipboards,
oh yeah,
and they're like looking at stuff, they probably have run an inventory report, and they're not only counting levels, but they might be price marking down things that they're trying to get rid of that have aged out. They've gotten too old.
Sure.
And they're marking down the price.
So smart. And it doesn't matter even if you're doing this on a small scale or, like you said, this large scale like Best Buy. You still just have to have the knowledge of what is trending, what is selling, what do I need to get rid of. I mean, we had this joke. Some of my listeners are also customers, but you guys, it was the Arctic Jam joke. I got this Arctic Jam fabric in, I don't know, January, when retail is a little bit slower. And for whatever reason, I was not inspired by any other fabric, and I was like, order 20 yards of it. I love it. I love it. Well, my love for it lasted about 2 weeks, and I designed every single product within my line. So it had accessories, it had bags made up in it, everything within that I could make out of this new amazing Arctic Jam fabric I made. It bombed. Nobody wanted it. I was like, oh, crap. I am sitting on probably 40 different products of this Arctic Jam, and I have got to move this because, A, it was annoying me that it was such an impulse thing for me and just not admitting, like, I wasn't inspired by fabrics. I should have kept looking or just not spent money on some wily fabric. So we just liquidated it. It was, I don't even remember what we priced them at, but we're like, this time only, here's the fabric. Well, thank the Lord, and I really do mean that, not in vain, people liked it. And they liked it at that price point. So I was able to move it. But that taught me a lot about, too, like personally when I should order fabrics, what kind of zone I need to be in, believe it or not. Taking note of what season is it. Is it in January? Are you feeling what kind of fabrics and what kind of trends, like you said, the fashion world is going on? And then do I just want to like buy a small smattering of it so that I can see if it is taking off within the customers or if this is just one of my squirrel moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, it impacts so many parts of your business. And someone's listening right now, and what they need to do is they need to walk back into their shelving area, and there is that box, there is that thing on the shelf that's been sitting there that is now emotionally costing them, which is what that fabric was doing for you, beyond what it's dollars costing them. Take that product and think to yourself, how much would I pay someone to come take this off my hands? I'd pay someone $20 right now to make this box disappear, right? And put that box on the floor and commit to selling it this next month. Ask every single person if they come in, if they want to buy that box of stuff or if they want to buy that product off of you, and market it what you paid for it. And if they say no, just say, make me an offer. Get it out of there, because you'd rather have $10 or $100 back in your till to use and not have that emotional burden than have that stupid thing sitting on the shelf, driving you crazy and taking up your money and time. So you could do some real house cleaning with that pretty quickly.
And remember, like, that is giving you the freedom to make better decisions the next time when you get rid of that. So as much as you're like, I got to make something on it, like the perfectionist, I got to check mark that it's sold and whatever, get over it. If you can get rid of it, then the freedom that will allow you to make better decisions and be more creative, I'll sign up for that one every time. Move it.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot be in the business, Becca, of saying, well, like, I have $5 in each one of those and I want to lose money. You've already lost the money. It was a wrong decision.
Yep.
And you're not going to make every purchase isn't going to be perfect. You're going to have some big winners and some big losers. Call the losers what they are and move them along. It's not a reflection of you as a person.
True.
It's not a reflection of you as a business owner. Major league batters, if they were the best in the world, they only hit the ball 4 times out of 10 when it comes across the plate.
Wow.
It's okay. Then they're the best.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
You do not have to hit every single one out of the park to be successful at business. But you got to be really good at knowing when you've made the wrong decision. Own it. Do your thing. Do your little temper tantrum about the bad decision, and then get that sucker mark down and get it out of there.
Yes, I love it. Okay, the last report is COGS, and this is one where I said Clint would fall off his chair because I actually do really, really like COGS, and I reference mine. I have a really amazing spreadsheet that Clint and Lauren made for me. I reference mine at least twice a week, just going back to like, okay, how much is this costing me? Because like I mentioned in part 1, like, I love me a sticker. I love a sticker that's really cute design, that builds the woman up, that tells her she's special and she's God-made, and that all of those things. So I am constantly arguing about, can I please have a different sticker? Can we get different stickers? So I have to go back to my COGS sheet to figure out where else I can cut so that I can get my sticker or my affirmation card. So tell us a little bit about COGS, Clint.
Well, I will do my best. And let me just clarify something. Becca does have an epically amazing color-activated spreadsheet that her team lives and dies by.
Yes.
I didn't have one thing to do with that spreadsheet other than helping Becca be able to mentally approach it. 2 very intelligent women, one of whom I work for, Lauren, and an old employee, Haley, slaved over that thing, up to and including Haley counting every single stitch in every single one of Becca's bags to make sure we had her numbers accurate. And I think you can appreciate that, those of you who've seen Rebecca's product line. So I don't want to take any credit for that sheet other than me just telling Becca, I believe in you, you can do this. 2 very diligent coworkers of mine put that together. But the cost of goods sold, or as Becca keeps saying, COGS, you hear her say a word, it's COGS. It's the acronym for cost of goods sold. Mm-hmm. And so that's what if you're not familiar with that word, you keep hearing her say COGS. It's basically what in the world is all included in the cost of the product that you have going out the door. This is really hard for most business owners to understand on the front side and makes a lot of sense on the back side because they don't include so many things. Becca, what's something for you that now is really obvious that's included in your COGS that you never would have put on the initial list when we were on the front side of it? Is there anything you think like, well, I didn't think about the stickers? Is there anything else like that?
I didn't think about shipping costs. The box, the tissue, the affirmation card, the thank you card, and the tape. I was like, I don't know, $3. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's buy new stickers. So when we got down to the nitty-gritty, I'm like, oh, buy the half sheet of tissue paper, not the full sheet, because the half sheet fits the box beautifully and it looks better. Like that, I did not anticipate how much of that would be in there.
Yeah, so some of these things could be like whatever you're trying to sell. So that makes sense, right? The hamburger
Yeah.
or the bag. That's all the raw materials, and I mean all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, when you make a cost of goods sold report, you don't say, about $3.
No.
Because you're wrong. I've never met anybody who can rattle off their numbers accurately. They have sort of a hunch, which that's helpful for just quick conversation, but it's not good for a report. And so that is how much, for Becca's world, that is how much do those little D-rings cost? How much do those snaps cost? How much do the zippers cost in each color, at each length?
Mm-hmm.
How much fabric? In Becca's world, when she cuts a bag, I don't know if you've noticed, but the bags aren't the shape of how fabric comes, which means there's waste. Yep. There's the fabric she doesn't use. That's included in the cost of the bag because she still has to pay for that extra fabric.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's still part of it. Now, Becca's resourceful, and she tries to make accessories, and she keeps her beautiful daughters busy with their projects with the waste and tries to minimize that. But it's still money that Rebecca's spending in order to get a product out the door.
Mm-hmm.
It could be all the parts, all the labor.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where it matters. If your family's helping you and you're not charging them, then your COGS are off.
Yeah.
Or you're not paying them, then your COGS are off. Now, let's say that your mom's helping you, and you know that to replace her, you'd have to pay $20 an hour, and she refuses to take the $20 an hour. I would go ahead and include the $20 an hour in the cost of goods sold so it's accurately reflecting it.
Oh, yeah.
Even though she refuses to take the money.
Right. Just like in me, I do pay myself, but I do all the surging. Still in my company at this size, I get to do all the surging. It's like the one thing I just love to do and hang on to. I was like, sweet, that's a freebie. We don't have to include that. And Lauren was like, absolutely not, because somebody is going to be doing that someday, and they're of value as well, just as much as you are. So it had to be included in the COG sheet.
Mm-hmm. All the supplies you use in making the product, we had a customer, a maker, that used an absolute ton of Elmer's glue.
Oh.
And he never, ever included that cost in there. He was rather flabbergasted how much money he spent on Elmer's glue.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, mine was thread, too. I didn't realize how much thread I was going through, and industrial thread versus domestic thread.
Mm-hmm. This includes things, any supplies you use, so we talked about that. That would be tape or glue or anything else. And again, the tape, let's say that let's say you're a maker and you use masking tape to hold something in place until you glue it or stitch it or cut it or put rivets to it or whatever. That tape that you use, that you just put on there real quick and take off to get it to the other part of the room where you do the thing, that's part of your COGS. You're still consuming that tape to make the final product, even though it doesn't go to the customer. And I think a lot of the stuff that doesn't end up in the customer's hands gets sort of written off in the business owner's mind, but it was still consumed to make the product. Think if you're a restaurant, you might use a cooking oil to get the food right, and you don't give the oil to the customer, but you still had the expense of the oil to get the food ready. You got to include the cost of the oil.
Yep, 100%.
Your overhead costs, this is your internet and your electricity and your water and anything else you use. That can add up.
Mm-hmm.
The shipping costs, I think that the UPS man is like part of Becca's family at this point.
We exchange Christmas letters. No kidding.
Yeah. There's a lot of shipments coming and going.
Yes.
Well, let's say Becca bought something for $100 and had $4 shipping, she really did pay that $4 shipping, even though the product only cost $100. She has to include that shipping cost in there because she spent that money to get the stuff ready for her.
That was my other big aha. Not only my shipping for myself when I shipped to the customer, what cost was involved, but what you just said, how much was shipping was to get something in, like my leather, like my fabric, how much are we paying on freight? And also, when I knew that, I was like, we got to ask them if we can get a better break. Like, do you have any program with UPS? Do you have a program with FedEx? How can we get the freight cost down? 100%. Because you have to put them in your COGS.
Yeah, I think where I see this happen is in this scenario. Let's say that someone is a technician for an industry. They work at a bakery, and they're a baker, and they make really great cookies for that bakery. And they feel like that if they hung out their own shingle and made their own cookies, that they could do. They see the cost of flour and the cost of sugar, and they think, geez, we're charging $6 a dozen for cookies, and it only costs $1 to make this in goods, I'll do my own, right? I'll make my own cookies and sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't make any money, and they're super confused as to how in the world it only costs them $1 to make cookies, and they're selling them for $6, because they didn't include the cost of the oven and the gas and the driving around and the marketing. And by the time all that gets added up, they might not be making any money. They're only looking at the raw goods cost and not the cost of everything, and it can be really deceiving.
Very well. I always think of it. Remember when you get shipping and handling charges? You'd be like, "What's handling?" We don't need to do that. Just charge them what it actually costs to ship. The handling is the person putting the tissue paper and wrapping it up together and paying for the tape and paying for the handling part is the person, whether it's you or the person in there printing the report and making sure they pull all of the right items for your box. Like, that's the handling charges. You have to charge them.
Yeah, that cost is absorbed one way or the other. Either the retailer includes it in the price, or they add it on. But like Rebecca's saying, that's directly going to some sort of function in the business.
Yep.
And that matters. That also, in much bigger operations, let's say in the future, Becca is 25 times the size she is now. It's possible that her product, once it's made, is being shipped to another room or warehouse where that's all they're doing is shipping them out. And so it's easier to say, like, that handling cost gets allocated to that to make sure Becca's paying her people enough money and that cost is being reflected with the customers. And that's where you see that with much bigger companies.
Okay.
Any of the indirect costs, and this can get really nuanced, and, someone like Lauren, who I work for, could really give you the nuance of what all is included. But when you're distributing to other retailers, who pays for that shipping? That can be included sometimes in COGS. Packaging is the big one. Man, our small business owners terrible at adding up how much packaging costs.
Oh, yeah.
And they're terrible at fighting for, 1, better packaging for their customers, and 2, better pricing for themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's just a constant battle, and it's a huge industry, and there's a ton of options. And I know Becca's tried so many different things. Oh, Becca, what are some of the things you've learned about just the packaging thing? I know you talked about tissue and tape, but you've gone through quite the transformation in packaging over the years.
Oh, yeah. Well, just because it's the quickest method to get the box size that you want from Uline or Papermart or whatever isn't necessarily the best option, because you're paying really expensive shipping fees with them. So it'll be the cheapest for the box, but their freight to get it to is really expensive. So that was a big aha. And so once I could get my costs under control, understood, then I was able to go, well, what kind of experience do I want my customer to have? And what will I absolutely not agree to back down on? And so for me, that was the affirmation cards. It's really important to me that the woman is built up as soon as she reads, whether it's a Bible verse or that she's beautiful, and that this bag has nothing to do with me, Rebecca Scott, and everything to do with her and who she is. So I was like, deal breaker. No matter what, we are ordering affirmation cards. So I don't care if we have to go without tissue paper. I don't care if we have to go without my sticker. Fine. But I will have beautiful affirmation cards. So then I could set myself, I could backtrack what everything else had to cost. So that was just one example for me with the shipping, and constantly referring back to it, watching my gal use the tape machine. Should we go with the paper, the wet paper instead? Would I save money? Would I save her time? Like, how can I make this the most efficient, but yet the most beautiful for the customer's experience?
Yeah. And I think that there's an empowering thing that I observed happen in Becca, and I don't know if you've even noticed it, Rebecca, so I'll mention it and we'll see. When you don't know your numbers, other people tell you your numbers. So you call the box company and you say, how much are your boxes? And they say, they're $2. They're telling you the price. When you know your numbers, you call them and say, I need boxes for $1.50. Can you get me boxes at that price?
Actually,
if they say
yes,
you
you're
say
so
deal.
right.
If they
I
say
do remember
no,
this.
If they say no, then you hang up and you call another company and you say, I need boxes at $1.50.
Yes,
because
it's so good.
Because you're in charge of your numbers. My guess is right now someone really knows what I'm talking about listening to this. And other people are telling them how much they're going to pay. Other people are telling them about their business.
Yep.
Instead of the other way around. If your business is in charge of you and you're not in charge of your business, probably because you don't know your numbers.
Right.
It's probably
I had
happening
this exact scenario. I was able to contact a box company and say, here's what, I didn't tell them what I was currently paying. I told them, here's what I need the box prices to be at. Can you do that? And they write back and they go, yep. But if I wouldn't have said that and I would have said, here's what I'm paying, can you beat that? Maybe they would have beat it by 2 cents. You know, like they also have a customer and you're it, and they want to please you and get to whatever it is in your head they need to make the sale. So they're more willing to negotiate when you really know what you want.
Mm-hmm. And you can play hardball with that. And now, Becca, that you're a much larger business, you could be a tough negotiator and say, I can't pay that for freight.
And here's the interesting part. Again, from the reports we're running, if you know your inventory forecast, you could say, listen, I will place this order 3 times a year, no matter what, in these months, if you can do this. How powerful is that statement for that company? Because that guarantees their cash flow.
Yeah,
that's perfect. That's a perfect wrap up for all of these reports that we're running, is like why each one is necessary to make really powerful decisions for your business when you know each report individually and what it can deliver to you.
Mic drop. Exactly right. That is exactly right.
Well, thank you so much, Clint, for explaining this. We could not hear it from any more of a humble guy who just really simplifies it, but yet, also lets us know, like, okay, this one's a little boring, but here's why you need to know it. So I just appreciate who you are. Not only are you, like, really, really, really smart, but you're just so kind about things. And I love how you approach business in, like, a you can do this matter, but also wanting to know who the entrepreneurs are that you work with. Like you always say, you like to get belly up with them, and that just means putting your belly on the countertop. And so I appreciate all the years that I've got to enjoy your advice, and I love that the listeners are also getting to just gain so much knowledge in such a simplified way. So thank you very much, Clint, for joining us for 7 reports you must know. Okay, you guys, do some homework. Look at the show notes, look at the resources that Clint talked about. We will be sure to provide some of those, like the score and that sort of thing. And listen to this twice, right? Do yourselves a favor. Listen to the part 1 and the part 2 twice, and then report back to me on the Facebook page. I want to know if you're learning your reports. Until next time, encouragers, we got this.
I know how you can start executing on all the things that God has equipped you to do. You can pick up my book at theencouragerpodcast.com and check out the store complete with book, journal, and the master course. Also, make sure to check out the resources tab where you'll get a hold of all the PDFs from the podcast. Thank you for tuning in, encouragers. Remember to subscribe so it's automatically on your phone. And please rate and review me. We got this, encouragers.